What kind of a show are you guys putting on here today?
You're not interested in art?
No.
Now look, we're going to do this thing. We're going to have a conversation.
Hey, Film Spotters, Adam and Josh here. We'll be back with our usual format next week, a full review, the new movie, The Drama. Josh, are you ready for The Drama with Zendaya and Robert Pattinson? A new one from A24.
Very ready. Tickets are booked. And the good news, Adam, don't have to take 2 buses to this one.
Okay.
Just a 1-bus movie, which already working in its favor. Yeah, eager to see it.
I am as well. And I'm eager for this. We will officially induct 2 new movies into the Filmspotting Pantheon. That's right. Filmspotting family members got their ballot 3 or 4 days ago. And at this point, as we're recording, they have 3 or 4 more days to submit that ballot. 9 pretty great films. And I submitted my ballot. I'm pretty sure you did as well. It was hard to rank those movies.
Those titles were moving up and down, back and forth. I didn't even have a surefire number 1 that I knew I had to put in that first slot. So yeah, this is difficult, but between us, between the family members, we will get to those 2 new Pantheon titles next week.
If you are a family member and you're thinking, I don't really know what Adam's talking about, I don't remember seeing a ballot, for whatever reason, it didn't come to your email the show, feedback@filmspotting.net. I'll make sure that you get your ballot. We want to make sure every voice is heard, every ballot is counted, and we get those 2 new movies inducted. The good thing is you really can't go wrong. Any of those films deserve
That's true.
to be part of the Filmspotting Pantheon. This week, 40s Madness Round 2 results and Sweet 16 matchups. We do have a couple of notes first. We have a slate of film and Filmspotting community events to be aware of that we'd like our audience to be aware of, starting with Team Deacons. How about that? Team Deacons at the Athenaeum in Chicago, Josh.
Very exciting. As you know, I'm a regular listener to the Team Deacons podcast. Was just listening to it today while doing dishes, as a matter of fact. And yeah, this will be a live event at the Athenaeum Center for Thought and Culture right here in Chicago. It is Team Deacons, Athenaeum Center's Film and Culture Festival. So April 11th and 13th coming up here. It's going to be a 2-day celebration of cinematic artistry, mentorship, and emerging talent is how they're describing it. So there will be screenings. There's going to be a short film competition and, of course, live events with Oscar-winning cinematographer Roger Deakins and his wife, Jane. So really special opportunity to hear about his work, their work together, and it looks like really engaged with the Chicago filmmaking community as well. Again, that's April 11 and 13 at the Athenaeum Center.
And we might have a connection or two with the Athenaeum. Coming up, I will transition into a save the date we've been mentioning here on the show over the past couple of weeks. And we may have more than a save the date coming up here in the next week or two. But I don't know if we're going with this officially or not. Sam says this was all him. This was his brilliant brainchild. And I believe it because he is kind of a sly comedic genius. 2 Fest, 2 Filmspotting. Filmspotting
Confirmed.
Fest 2. Yeah.
I'm stamping it.
It might
I'm
as well
stamping
be.
it.
June 27th and 28th in Chicago. We will have 3 movies at one venue. Then we'll move over to another venue Sunday morning to close out a 4-film festival. I'll be there. You'll be there. Producer Sam will be there. Other assorted members of the Filmspotting team, special guests as well, and Filmspotting family members who will get access to tickets and a discount. That'll all come before tickets go on sale to the general public. A special meet and greet opportunity will be available to Filmspotting family members as well. So much more information coming up about 2 Fest, 2 Filmspotting very soon.
Now I feel like I need a special name, Adam, for the upcoming meetup I'm doing in Berlin. Is this Filmspotting meetup Wings of Desire? I'm
Sure.
thinking of something
Ask
Berlin-centric. That'll work for now.
See what Sam can come up with.
Yeah, I'll lean on Sam, as I always should. Friday, April 10 is when I will be in Berlin, and I've heard back from a couple of folks, so there'll be at least 2 or 3 of us getting together.
That's right.
Very excited about that. If you are hearing this before April 10 and think you might want to join us that Friday early evening, you can also email feedback@filmspotting.net, or if you're on social, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, you can find me at those places, Larson on Film, Larsen, and yeah, ask me there and I'll connect with you and give you those details. But looking forward to that in about a week and a half right now.
Now, I just Googled this. I had no idea this was going to be the answer, but one of at least 2 people I know for sure who has communicated with us saying they were going to come to this event. Josh, can this be true? They said they were coming from Munich.
That's right.
To Berlin. Isn't that what the email said? And I was going to point out,
we're hoping for good trains.
I was going to point out that, that's not just a little bit of a skip away, but I thought maybe it was an hour or 2. According to Google, that's like at least a 4 to 6 hour trip. They're coming from that far away to hang out with you?
I sort of hope they have business otherwise in Berlin, and this is lining up nicely, but I wouldn't put it past a Film Spotting listener to be that devoted also. So yeah, boy, this is going to be, I might have to buy them 2 beers, Adam, maybe 2.
I was going to say splurge 3 or 4, as many as they want for coming that
to get back home
distance
the same night.
Good point. Don't put them up in a hotel room. Don't go that far. Okay.
Nobody else has ever danced the red shoes since you left. Nobody else ever shall.
Look, I probably should have told you this before, but you see, well, insanity runs in my family.
If I could only get inside that brain of yours and understand what makes you do these crazy, twisted things.
Put on the red shoes, Vicky, and dance for us again.
This is Sparta!
Let's move on to 40s Madness. The Sweet 16 is live. You can vote now at filmspottingmadness.com. The polls close. We like to remind you Mondays, every week, Mondays, 11:59 p.m. Central Time, midnight. The Elite 8 will open Tuesday at noon Central Time. We did have a couple of notable round 2 results. Here we throw out the question once again, should the selection committee be praised? Should we be damned? No upsets. No Cinderellas.
This is very unusual. I mean,
it is highly unusual. It's never happened.
No insult to the selection committee, but yeah, usually we've had a Cinderella at this point or a major surprise. And yeah, so far going pretty much according to your and Sam's plan.
That's exactly right. How we thought it would play out. This round was even more decisive for the higher seeded films than we saw in round 1. If I remember correctly, last week we wondered about A Matter of Life and Death, The Archers, who have 4 films in the tournament. We're going to hear about all of them, I think, coming up, whether or not that was going to be our Cinderella. And Rob Shames wrote in and said, A Matter of Life and Death, Cinderella run. Come on, people. Let's make it happen. It was going up against the Philadelphia Story. And we thought maybe, even though the Philadelphia Story was the higher seed, we thought the love for The Archers out there might be enough to take it down, to be that Cinderella story. Josh, it didn't happen, but it was one of the closer matchups. In fact, it was the second closest matchup of the round, and that was 59% to 41% in favor of the Philadelphia Story.
Sorry, Rob, but I appreciate the effort. I do love the lobbying that goes on in the poll comments for Filmspotting Madness, trying to influence others. In this case, it looks like it didn't stick. How about another close matchup or a close result here relatively in this year's Madness? Hitchcock's Notorious up against Preston Sturges Sullivan's Travels. We heard from Jordan Jersic on this one. If things go wrong for my bracket, it will be because I underestimated the Hitchcock films. I've seen Notorious, Shadow of a Doubt, and Spellbound. I probably even liked all of them, but I couldn't tell you a single thing about any of them. And if I tried, I'd likely mix them all up. compared to Hitchcock's more famous later work, or something unique like Sullivan's Travels for that matter, they don't have the juice. This match will be an interesting bellwether. Well, I don't know if I'd go that far in terms of not having the juice, Jordan, but I'm gonna confess, when the bracket showed up and I looked at it, I had a similar moment as Jordan did, looking at these Hitchcock titles and thinking, now which is the one with
Spellbound?
It's like, so I got it straight.
Kind of spy-y, right?
A little bit. So I do understand that impulse. Let's see how the votes turned out here. Again, fairly close. Hitchcock did take it. Notorious 58% of the vote. Sullivan's Travels received 42%.
Yeah, and so that was the closest match, and that was 16% separating them. So there were no nail biters this round, as you can tell. Henrik Hansen says this: "It's in the titles, man. We have Brief Encounter versus another Archer's film, The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp." What is he referring to? Brief is a lovely, intimate drama. Blimp is bold, bombastic, and better. Well, Bryce Baloney says, "David Lean directed 2 of my top 10 all-time films in Lawrence of Arabia at number 5 and River Kwai at number 10. So imagine my shock, surprise, and delight when I watched Brief Encounter and saw that the master of scope and epic scale had crafted perhaps the most intimate and aching examination of lost love ever committed to celluloid. Add the fact that Colonel Blimp is, in my view, a lesser Powell Pressburger, Behind the Red Shoes, A Matter of Life and Death, and Black Narcissus. Well, that's pretty formidable company. And this was an easy selection for me. And you know what? It was pretty easy for film spotters, Josh, because David Lean's Brief Encounter, the relatively lean Brief Encounter up against the bold, bombastic Colonel Blimp, took it down 66% to 34%. Another Archer's gone.
I agree with Bryce on this one. Even that experience, I think this came up when we talked about Brief Encounter in some context on the show, Adam, but the same experience of coming to Brief Encounter after seeing those earlier, more acclaimed generally, or seen generally, lean films, and realizing, oh, he can do this as well too, and being enthralled with it. So I ended up voting for Brief Encounter this time around.
The top 4 seeds, we'll just point this out, they all advanced very easily. Casablanca defeated, another Archer's film, Black Narcissus, 88% to 12%. Now, that's a third Archer's film we've mentioned that's out. Are they out completely? No, they're not. They have one more film that's left, still contending. We'll get to that. Citizen Kane defeated, here's another Hitchcock, Rope, 91 to 9. The benevolent Jimmy Stewart still had to trounce Bambi, 86 to 14. And Double Indemnity beat The Shop Around the Corner, 83 to 17. So
wow,
drubbings there with the top 4 seeds. Now, you struggled, Josh, with Mildred Pierce against The Best Years of Our Lives. You wondered how close that would be. I didn't put the score here, but I'm pretty sure that one was The Best Years of Our Lives, 82%. Mildred Pierce, 18%.
And you know what? I'm kind of okay with that result in a way, because I think of Best Years as more of a film spotting movie. We had such a great conversation about it. And I don't know if Mildred Pierce has ever come up at length on the show that we've done.
It should, but it hasn't.
So it should, but I like to think at least that the attention we've given Best Years was part of that win, and that makes me feel good.
The Filmspotting Bump, as we say occasionally. Okay, so we're at the Sweet 16. That means that we're at the point in Filmspotting Madness where we can go through the bracket pretty much one by one. We've got 8 matchups, and let's just go through them, and we'll take our usual tack. We'll see, Josh, which ones of these stand out as either particularly easy, no-brainer, particularly difficult, really gave you some strife, and or really tough to predict as we look at them. The 1 versus the 16. And a reminder, since there were no upsets we did correctly predict this. Sam and I thought the top 16 films, the 16 films that would be left standing, would be these 16 films. That's why they're seeded 1 through 16, and here they are. So Casablanca, number 1, up against the number 16 seed, Notorious. Where does it stand for you, this matchup?
Not hard for me, and I don't think it will be hard for Film Spotting listeners. I don't think Casablanca has really been challenged yet, nor will be this round.
Yeah, not tough to predict, nor tough to pick. Casablanca, and I do really like Notorious, but
of course,
Casablanca is an easy win. Here's where things get really interesting, and we go back to David Lean. It was already enough of a challenge for me last round, picking between Brief Encounter and Colonel Blimp. Now we have, and it should be, because it's the 8 seed versus the 9 seed, it should be the toughest matchup. Bicycle Thieves, Vittorio De Sica, his Italian neorealism classic, up against Brief Encounter, the 9 seed. Brief Encounter, Josh, I just want to be clear, because I am going to pick against it again for the second round in a row. It's probably, I haven't done this math yet, it's probably one of my top 10 favorite films in this bracket. It just keeps coming up against other movies I have even higher. First Blimp, now Bicycle Thieves. And the thing I want to say about Bicycle Thieves, and here's why I do think it's going to lose. I think we're going to get an upset. I think it's going to be our first and maybe only upset of the entire tournament. You heard it here first. Bicycle Thieves is not just eating your cultural vegetables. It's essential cinema, and both films in this matchup will/should leave you in tears. I'm going with Bicycle Thieves, but you could flip a coin.
This was the hardest to pick personally for me of all these matchups, for many of the reasons you said. Brief Encounter, as I mentioned earlier, it's in the lightweight lean division, right? Compared to the likes of Lawrence of Arabia or Bridge on the River Kwai, but pound for pound, maybe his best, if you look at it that way. But what do you do with Bicycle Thieves? I mean, as you said, key film in all of cinema history, just a turning point toward neo-realism. Also, just the entire notion of global cinema opening up.
Yes,
on American shores.
A
crucial text for cinema studies overall. But you made the point, Adam. No vegetables here. Hugely moving as well, right? That's where you might think, okay, I've found a point of difference that'll help me at least make a decision. Am I going to go with emotions with Brief Encounter and go with appreciation, cinematic appreciation with Bicycle Thieves? That's not going to help you in this case, because you could flip that either way. I don't know right now where I'm going. I'm going to have to give it some more thought.
Okay. The temporary abstention. I like that approach. We have to take that. You get one per round. We'll just make that a rule.
All right.
Moving forward.
Yeah.
We all get at least one per round.
Playing that card here.
Yeah. Okay. Our fourth matchup is the number 4 seed, Billy Wilder's Double Indemnity, up against another Hitchcock, Rebecca.
I'm going to throw some reasoning in here that sometimes we have to get to at this point. Some criteria, some logic when you're faced with a difficult decision in Filmspotting Madness. And this has probably come up over the years to some degree or another. But if you have two movies that, in this case, Rebecca, Double Indemnity, as a critic, I probably appreciate them both equally. Well, sometimes you just have to lean into personal experience. When you saw the movie, who you saw it with, let that be your deciding factor. So in this case, Rebecca I saw at a revival screening in a restored movie palace in downtown LA. This was with my family on a trip maybe 8 years ago or so now. And since it's become a family favorite, that's the reasoning I'm going to give, where I'm going Rebecca. Other than that, I have no critical acumen to add.
Okay. I knew once you started talking about experience and if nostalgia in any way was going to play a role, I knew Double Indemnity was sunk, because you just watched Double Indemnity for the first time as part of our Barbara Stanwyck marathon. That was a major cinematic blind spot for you. You had to cross that one off.
And you think, that there's another logic, another tactic you can employ. Recency bias is saying, well, I've seen that one more recently and I can remember it more vividly. Maybe I'll lean that way. Yeah. In this case, not helping me out. I'm going Rebecca.
Yeah. Actually, recency bias versus vividness. What's more vivid is actually that memory from your past in your mind, and you're going with Rebecca. So yeah, for me, couldn't smash the vote button for Double Indemnity hard enough. Easy choice, one of the easiest choices of the entire tournament. Now, that was not the case when we get to our next matchup. The Third Man, the 5th seed, versus the Maltese Falcon. We have in the Maltese Falcon the second of 3 Humphrey Bogart movies and the first of 2 John Huston movies we're going to mention. This is a bit of a tough choice for me because of my appreciation, certainly for the Maltese Falcon. And I'm going to say it for the last time, I think. How long it has been since I've seen The Third Man. I am leaning The Third Man, and I think The Third Man is definitely going to win. I think it's going to win fairly easily too, but I do, Josh, really, and I'm saying it out loud to force myself, I do now. I knew it was going to advance, or I thought it would advance pretty easily. Now that we're here and we're up against the likes of the Maltese Falcon in the Sweet 16, I do really want to watch it again before it goes up against, if it advances, it will go up against Double Indemnity. Now, I want to be clear. I do not see a world where it, for me, defeats Double Indemnity, where I vote against Double Indemnity, because the fact is Double Indemnity might be my number 1 seed in this tournament. That's how much I love that film. But I still want to give it a fighting chance. In my mind, I want to give The Third Man a fighting chance. I know that's how some people feel about that film. That's how highly they regard it. And I feel like I'm sleeping on The Third Man a little bit. So I'm going to pick it, but before next round, I think I'm going to revisit The Third Man.
We don't talk about that as much. We often talk about, doing homework for Madness and an excuse to catch up with things we haven't seen. But yeah, also a great excuse to revisit these wonderful movies that it's been a while. I actually, and how I fare in our prediction brackets will tell you how much stock you should put in this. I thought this might be the toughest one to predict of this round, just because you think of some lists of the top film noirs of all time, and both of these might be in the top 5 for some people, possibly. Third Man and Maltese Falcon. Does Bogart put Maltese over the top? Does Third Man's Vienna Sewer Chase counteract any star power? I think that's very possible. That's a sequence that sticks in your memory more than a star performance in some ways. So you're probably right. I think, I don't know where my prediction bracket landed or if I had to make this choice, but sitting here right now, it's tougher for me, but I think you're probably right. Third Man will take it, but I'm not really sure with this one.
Okay. The next matchup, this is Hawks v. Hawks. Oh, I'm sorry. That's our next one. I'm already jumping ahead to what I think is the much tougher matchup, the more interesting matchup. I think we can probably glide past pretty quickly as I tried to just ignore it. Number 2, Citizen Kane versus number 15, The Philadelphia Story. Do you have anything to say about that, Josh?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to go well for The Philadelphia Story, unfortunately.
No, I don't think it, nor should it stand a chance against Kane. And I don't know that we need to dwell on this part either, but I was actually thinking, and I truly don't mean this as a huge slight against The Philadelphia Story. It's in the top 16 for a reason. But which movies in the top 16 realistically could The Philadelphia Story beat? There's a reason why it's number 15 as well. Maybe Notorious, but honestly, if you put those two head to head, I think Notorious probably wins. I think the selection committee probably failed on that one. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitive Katharine Hepburn, and that
definitive
goes
Screwball.
A long way. Goes a long way for folks. So yeah, I by no means do we mean to slight it at all, but when you're coming up against Kane this relatively early in the tournament, few films are going to fare well.
Yes. So here we are. The 7 versus the 10 in the real March Madness tournament, we get a lot of upsets here. It's going to be Hawks upsetting himself, potentially. His Girl Friday versus The Big Sleep. Screwball comedy versus hard-boiled detective, right? This may be the thing that ultimately decides it for a lot of people, and I think I'm showing my hand, Josh. Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell versus Bogey and Bacall. And this isn't the right grounds to make your choice, probably, but with the Maltese Falcon out, I guess you have the third man, as you said, but do you need a true hard-boiled detective noir to advance? Or does it feel like you do? And is The Big Sleep the one? At the same time, Bogey's good to go with Casablanca. You know he's going to advance there. Cary Grant, then, is going to potentially be out, right, with His Girl Friday? So
yeah, I think we've seen with directors, voters don't necessarily think that way. I mean, sometimes,
yes,
we do, falling into predictions perhaps, but maybe some people will think about in terms of what stars we're losing. I mean, great stars are in this matchup for sure. The thing for me between these two is, and I'll preface this by saying that I love The Big Sleep. I also would include it among those great noirs. It always comes with this massive caveat. No one knows what the heck is going on. It doesn't matter. And
it doesn't matter. It truly doesn't.
Labyrinthine plots come with the territory with noir, but this is particularly convoluted. And it's just something that seems to always be acknowledged, even in the greatest appreciations of The Big Sleep. I don't know that His Girl Friday has a flaw. I mean, we could talk about whether there is or is not a perfect movie, but this is one that is clicking on every single cylinder. Maybe for me, at least, that's why I don't see this one as too tough to choose or predict, but I could be wrong.
It's funny you say that, though, and I don't want to digress into it because it's been years since I've seen The Big Sleep, and I don't want to claim to know that text really well, but I truly don't think of that even, Josh, as a flaw, because it's one of those things where in the moment of the storytelling, I'm not aware of it as a viewer. It's only after the fact, when you're unpacking it, do you go, oh, that was never really resolved. That was introduced and it didn't matter. So it feels like a very minor, if at best a flaw, if as a storytelling element in the moment, you're not questioning it as a viewer. Everything else about it is working so completely that it truly doesn't matter. And for me, even though His Girl Friday, and it does matter to me that it's an all-time journalism movie, I suppose, Bogey and Bacall, and I think The Big Sleep of the two is the more quintessential Hawks film. And on those grounds, I'm going Big Sleep. That would be my pick.
There's a lot to distract you. There's a lot of sexiness to distract you in The Big Sleep so that you don't notice those plot issues. Right. That's for sure.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going with the upset, even though I don't know that that's the way it's going to play out. His Girl Friday probably wins, but I'd pick the 10 seed if I could, if that mattered. Let's move on. We have two more matchups, Josh. The third seed, It's a Wonderful Life, up against The Best Years of Our Lives. Is The Best Years of Our Lives going to be our Cinderella? The 14 seed, is that effectively going to be the Cinderella of our tournament?
Did I say I already used my I don't want to pick now card? Because
well, I'll give you another one.
I should maybe have saved it for this. The catch here is, again, on first thought, I think, I'm going to go with the grittier, The Best Years of Our Lives. And then I always do this with It's a Wonderful Life. I remember how steeped in like depression and just grim reality It's a Wonderful Life is, despite where it ends up and how we maybe immediately think of it in our memory. I mean, it's been described as a noir itself in some ways. And I think you could make that case. So these are closer in my mind, even in tone, the more I think about it, which makes it more difficult for me. Here I'll use the Filmspotting Bump qualifier to maybe help me make my choice. I do think of The Best Years of Our Lives as more of a Filmspotting movie than It's a Wonderful Life. So maybe that's how I'll feel better. I'll sleep better about voting for Best Years over It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, it's hard when you're talking about a film. You know, it's one thing when you're talking about a movie like Rebecca that you can trace back to a certain point in your life and it means something to you, perhaps. But It's a Wonderful Life, for so many of us, certainly so many of us of a certain generation, sort of like The Wizard of Oz, when we only had so many channels on TV. And yes, we are old enough to have been at the tail end of that, right? That was an event. That was still an event to watch It's a Wonderful Life. And it meant something to my dad when that came on television. And he forced you, and you were reluctant at first to watch it. And then, of course, you gave in and you looked forward to watching It's a Wonderful Life. So the thought of that, of voting against it, seems insane. And I was so confident, Josh, about saying that I was going with The Best Years of Our Lives. And then I remembered that when you're having difficult choices like this, that what we're supposed to do in these madness circumstances is we're supposed to apply the incinerator rules. Like it's lost, the one you're voting against is lost to time forever. And it hit me that it would almost be like It's a Wonderful Life had never been born. And could I live with that? And despite all of that, guess what? I'm still picking The Best Years of Our Lives. I'm still picking it.
If you don't want to be responsible, I already admitted it. I'll take the hit.
No, as hard as it is, I do really think it's the better film. And it means more to me right now at this point in my life than It's a Wonderful Life does. Maybe that tells me something, and what it's telling me is I'm dramatically due for a rewatch of It's a Wonderful Life, but that's where I'm at right now.
I mean, that's a good point. If you do a sit down, concentrated, maybe just you viewing of It's a Wonderful Life, like the film critic viewing, right?
Never done that.
That would be different, and you might notice and appreciate other things, and it would just add to your genuine nostalgic and rightful appreciation for the movie, and that might bump it over the top. But for now, you and me, we're both throwing it in the incinerator.
Yes. Okay. Red shoes. We don't need no stinking red shoes. We'll see, because we have The Archers, perhaps their greatest film, The Red Shoes versus The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, the 6 seed versus the 11 seed. Josh, easy one for you or no?
I'm going to have to do some mental gyrations here as well, because on their faces probably esteem both of these movies equally. So how do I parse that? I'm going to do what I say. It seems like most voters, most listeners don't do, and look at who's left in the tournament in terms of filmmakers. I do consider that. I think it's important, as these brackets are representative of an era. And for me, Paul and Pressburger, The Archers have to be on there at least for one more round. Now, I actually have Black Narcissus as my favorite of their films, so I can't vote for that anymore.
No, it had a tough draw. It went up against Casablanca early.
Yeah. So. And that would have been, I would have loved to have seen that continue to march on. Red Shoes, I think I probably have a second. So that being the case, I want The Archers to be represented still. It's enough reasoning for me to vote for it here, but it's not easy.
Yeah. I mean, I could say I'm going with the Red Shoes because I want to see at least one Archers film continue in the tournament after having so many good films bow out. But this isn't a tough choice for me. And I really do like The Treasure of the Sierra Madre quite a bit, but I love the Red Shoes. And we've answered this question quite a bit over the years when it's been posed to us or it's just come up in conversation. The marathons that have had the biggest impact on us. And I think we tend to go to similar answers. The Iranian Cinema Marathon was a big one. Of course, the Satyajit Ray Marathon was a big one. These were
Varda
hugely influential, right? Varda, like those three, I think those three for sure absolutely changed us and changed the way we view films and changed the way we not only think about film and talk about film, but regard cinema, our favorite films of all time. It complicated in the best way that conversation. But before you joined the show, if I'm recalling correctly, was when we had the Archers Marathon. And I came to that not knowing a single Archers film and not even knowing that they were called the Archers. I had heard of Powell and Pressburger. I had seen Michael Powell's Peeping Tom because I had to watch that in film school, but I had not seen a Powell and Pressburger film. And so you can imagine how eye-opening that marathon was for me. And seeing a film like The Red Shoes, that for me, and having a mindset about that film, a completely naive, just growing up, I think a chorus line, the famous Broadway musical, and then of course the Michael Douglas movie version of that. The Red Shoes comes up in that, right? As the dancers talk about it. And so I always just equated it as this ballet movie, and growing up, even as I got into film, not knowing anything about the movie other than it's a ballet movie. Somehow that didn't particularly appeal to me, Josh. And so to watch it and realize that it's about everything, almost everything I care about in cinema and art, and made by these incredible artists, it blew me away, to say the least. And it's an all-timer for me. So it certainly belongs for me in the top 6 of this marathon, or of this tournament. And it's an easy choice for me, ahead of most films in this tournament, and certainly ahead of The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. So that's why I'm going Archers.
All right, we'll see if the Archers continue on to the next round.
We will indeed. Now let's talk a little bit about how the bracket prediction contest is playing out.
Oh boy.
We'll get to us in a second. We'll get to the better news here first. You may remember last week we had at least 2 people. I can't remember if there was a third or not, but there were at least 2, Matthew Emery and Anthony Reich, who were tied for first place, and they remain tied for first place.
All right.
After round
Congrats.
2. They have perfect brackets.
Wow.
Josh. And we heard from Anthony after round 1. This is what he said. First place in Filmspotting Madness. What giddy heights. This needs to go on my CV. I am hoping my run of good fortune continues, but seeing as I just followed the seeding into the next round 2, turns out wise, sometimes because it was just the film I preferred, and sometimes because I really did not have much of an idea, so following your extensive research and seeding just seemed like the sensible thing to do. If it does all go wrong, I know Sam and Adam are to blame. I can live with that. Follow your own advice and expertise, gents. Thanks for all you do. I love the madness of madness. It brings joy to March. So I, of course, had to do a deep dive on their brackets, and it's worth noting that Anthony and Matthew did also follow the seeding for the Final Four through the championship. So they both have Casablanca, they have Citizen Kane, they have Double Indemnity, and It's a Wonderful Life. And they both have Casablanca defeating the 1 seed. Yes, defeating Citizen Kane, the 2 seed, in the final. But there is one notable difference. And here's the thing. I put this in the notes earlier today that it will decide it, but I didn't fully reckon with the fact that there still could be a tie, because Anthony's bracket title is of all the film brackets in all the towns in the world. So you know where he's going, right? Now, Matthew's, I think he'd admit freely, is not as clever, but it's revealing. Matthew's bracket title is Black and White, and then in parentheses, like chalk. So what he's referring to there is Matthew just went with the favorite for every single choice.
Right.
He never picked an upset in any round throughout the entire tournament. Anthony actually deviated from that pattern and picked a few upsets in this round coming up, the Sweet 16. And those choices were, and these are smart choices. These are very strategic choices. Like we just talked about. He picked the number 11 Treasure of the Sierra Madre over the number 6 Red Shoes. I think that's got a chance, Josh, don't you?
Sure. Yeah.
And then even better, I think I called this one, in fact. I think this could be the for sure upset that we get. Number 9 Brief Encounter over number 8 Bicycle Thieves. So
they have to they'll have
Yes.
to separate themselves, right, after this round?
Right, except what happens if only one of those two happens? Then they both only have one incorrect. So they each only have one incorrect. There's no tiebreaker. They each only have one wrong. So as of this recording, I did send both of them a note, and I said, since it could end up being a tiebreaker, who is your third round choice if it does play out to be Double Indemnity versus It's a Wonderful Life? And of course, they both could end up picking the same choice, and that's not a tiebreaker. And we may just have to call it, we have co-winners, right? But
no,
I've
I
only
mean,
heard, I know. We'll have to do something, right?
We've talked about, when do we jump into YouTube Live? I think this is the time for an arm wrestling decision for the Filmspotting Madness champion. And we'll just have Matthew and Anthony roll up the sleeves, get on camera, and arm wrestle.
Or is it time for Quizmaster Thomas Todd and 1940s movie trivia or something?
I mean, I love Thomas.
Not
but
as fun.
Unless Thomas is going to judge the arm wrestling, I think I like my idea.
He would do that. He'd be happy to do that.
He would absolutely do it.
We'll see where it goes, and we'll see what those answers are if they do in fact go with the same tiebreaker. And we'll see in fact if it matters, because who knows? Maybe one of them gets both of these matchups correct. I don't know where the voting stands on either of those, but that is the one departure. So I do have to share this with you.
Basically, what you're telling me, Adam,
Yeah.
is it's too late for me to upset both of them and take them down.
That's not going to happen.
Running?
Now,
okay.
I just got this just about an hour before recording, thankfully, because I love it so much. And I didn't even want to put it in the notes because I didn't want you to see it. I wanted to get your reaction to this in real time. We heard from Anthony. Well, we also heard from Matthew Emery. And I mentioned to him, how you took this all chalk, all top seat approach. I can't wait to hear how you respond to Matthew, who clearly is a listener after my own heart. He said this: absolutely, your seeds were too good. I'm a numbers guy, so I collected a ton of data about all the movies in this tournament. Letterboxd score, IMDb votes and rating, director, genre, English audio. I don't know what he's saying about Filmspotting listeners there. If it's been featured on the show, nothing I added to the model. How was your model, Josh?
Go on. Just go on.
Nothing I added to the model improved it enough to pick against a seed. I think this is for two reasons. You and Sam take into account all the things I mentioned above. Upsets truly are upsets. Your seeds didn't have any systematic weaknesses I could exploit. We're kind of like the Terminator, like the T-1000, I think. While I have you, I just wanted to thank you for running the tournament again. You got me to watch some new favorites like Late Spring, My Darling Clementine, and I Know Where I'm Going, another Archer's movie there.
A good one.
So we're talking weaknesses, systematic weaknesses, models, all of the different factors he's throwing into the algorithm, Josh. It's my love language, I think.
I don't think Netflix killed cinema. I think Matthew did.
Well, I'm with them. We're together. We're in the boat going down with the movies.
Wow.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Matthew, for that fun and getting to watch Josh react in real time to that. That was all worth it. We'll see how that plays out. It will be a Matthew Emery or Anthony Reich champion, or it will be a tie unless we come up with something clever like Josh wants to sell tickets to a wrestling match.
Yeah.
Which, hey, Okay. As for the internal contest, the two of us, producer Sam, Madness Godfather Mike Merrigan, in Dover, New Hampshire. Last week, I was 101st. I missed 3. That's 101st, obviously, out of the entire tournament. This week, I'm still in the lead between the 4 of us. I moved up to 54th.
At you.
I only missed 1 in the Sweet 16. Fantasia from round 1. You know, I knew I had that crossed off. So that's the one I missed. Mike Merrigan, he was 120th. This week, still in second, but he moved up to 81st. He also missed 1. The Great Dictator was the one he lost. That went down 69-31 to Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Sam, last week he was 181st. This week he's still in 3rd place in our tournament, but he's up to 118th. He lost 1. It was Mildred Pierce.
Okay.
Now,
someone hasn't been named yet.
In this crazy, chaotic world, I love that there's it's not a constant, but I love that we're getting back to basics. Like we're at least getting back to a world where I can count on Josh being bad at Filmspotting Madness like it's supposed to be. You had a few anomalies. It messed with my head. But now we're getting back to the way it should be.
I don't know what our head-to-head record is, but I'm sure somebody with no life could put a chart together on that.
Matthew, where are you? Help me. Last week, you were 202nd. This week, you're still in 4th. You have dropped to 260th. Hey,
you know, my goal was to stay in the 200s, so I'm sitting pretty.
I was going to say there are at least like 200 people doing worse than you. You could look at it that way.
I'll take that.
You had Sullivan's Travels over Notorious. You had Life and Death over Philadelphia. You had Spellbound, which Spellbound didn't make it past the big sleep last round. And yes, you also thought Mildred Pierce would win. So you struggled a little bit. Yeah. You struggled a little bit.
Should have known better on Mildred Pierce.
Now, what's going to be interesting about how it plays out from here for us, I don't know how different our Sweet 16 matchups are. I didn't dig in that much, but here's what I know. You, me, and Sam all have the same Final 4, which is pretty much the top 4 seeds. Mike Merrigan went against the grain a little bit. He has the 3rd man upsetting Double Indemnity and making it to the Final 4. So, obviously that could be the decider. But just like last year, and this ended up hurting me. I don't know if you recall this, but I decided to be bold, and I shot my shot, and I said, I know that it's going to come down to Mulholland Drive and There Will Be Blood, and I figure everyone's going to pick There Will Be Blood, and I actually think Mulholland Drive has a chance, and not only that, if I'm going to separate myself, I should pick Mulholland Drive. I'll win. Well, Mulholland Drive lost, and I lost. So this year, I think people are going to pick Casablanca. I understand why that's the popular choice, going heart over head. But I think at the end of the day, more Filmspotting listeners just realize that the 800-pound gorilla that is Citizen Kane is the choice. And Citizen Kane is going to beat Casablanca. And I'm going to separate myself from Josh and Sam and Mike Merrigan, and I'm going to pick Citizen Kane. And that's what I did. So once again, I'm the only one who picked differently for the champion.
That's interesting, because I thought I was, and I've seen some of the bracket predictions coming by. I thought I was the only one zagging by going Casablanca, but it looks like a lot of people, a lot of people went that predictive route. So I think, you know, as chalk as this has been, I think we are heading to a thrilling finale here that's going to be tight and revealing. And yeah, I just feel like I heard that I'm still in the race, essentially. So I'll take it.
I mean, sure, you certainly are, because I could lose, and there's no doubt about that. Casablanca absolutely could take this, and could take it by a lot. That matchup is still ahead, isn't it, Josh? If it does come down to the 1 versus the 2, we will see. Sweet 16 polls are open now. They close at 11:59 p.m. Central Time, Monday, April 6th, and the Elite 8 Polls will open on Tuesday, the 7th at noon. All of this information is available. Filmspottingmadness.com. That is our show for this week, Josh.
Filmspotting is independently produced and listener supported. You can support the show by joining the Filmspotting family at filmspottingfamily.com. You can listen early and ad-free that way. You'll also get monthly bonus episodes, a weekly newsletter, and access to the entire show archive. We're produced by Golden Joe Deso and Sam Van Halgren. Without Sam and Golden Joe, this show wouldn't go. Our production assistant is Sophie Kempenaar. Special thanks to everyone at WBEZ Chicago. More information is available at wbez.org. For Filmspotting, I'm Josh Larson.
And I'm Adam Kempenaar. Thanks for listening.
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.